The gavel smashed like thunder, and Patricia Hensley, the HOA tyrant, sprang over the table, screaming. I was a con man while a sheriff's deputy stood beside me, eviction notices in hand. That's right, maybe a rancher who owned a 150-acre spread, legally removing an entire HOA from their own homes? How did a guy like me do it? Let's roll back to where it all started. Dawn painted the hills of my family ranch in fiery gold. As I monitored the cattle's water lines, dust stuck to my boots, and the air stank of sage and stubborn earth. My name's Caleb Turner, and this Land Freedom Plains ranch has been ours for more than a century, hacked out by my great-grandfather with grit and a rifle that morning. Old Pete from the post office rumbled up in his beat-up truck, waving an envelope like it was cursed. I took it expecting tax forms or election spam. Politics never interested me. The land was my world, governed by rain and hard seasons, not ballots. Pete lingered, fidgeting, then tipped his hat and peeled out. Standing in the sun's glare, I tore open the letter. What I read hit like a gut punch: legal gibberish about foreclosure, unpaid HOA fees, and a court-ordered auction. My ranch me legacy had been seized by the Crestwood Homeowners Association and sold to developers for chump change. My heart rate roared. This was no error. I'd never joined an HOA. My property predated Crestwood's cookie-cutter suburb by decades feast. I'd never even heard of them. Rage seething. I left the cattle and roared into town tires, spitting gravel at the county records office. I slapped the letter down on the counter in front of a nervous clerk named Eddie. This is a lie, I snarled. He typed away, then turned his monitor there. It was my ranch annexed 6 months ago by Crestwood HOA, labeled part of their community improvement district. They'd sent fee notices to a phony address, slapped a lien, when I didn't pay, and auctioned my land to their cronies, without a whisper to me. My fists clenched as Eddie printed the files. The annexation petition signatures were forged. Sloppy, identical scrolls. The approving county commissioner, Patricia Hensley's brother-in-law, Patricia Crestwood's HOA queen, had once tried looking for me to pay off my ugly wooden fences, visible from the highway. This wasn't a bureaucratic mistake. It was theft cunningly arranged by Patricia and her clique. They wanted my land for golf courses and gated communities, and when I refused to sell, they stole it. The books revealed Patricia purchased 3 parcels by my creek. Her VP, Greg Larson, seized the northern hills. Even the HOA treasurer grabbed a slice where my grandfather's cattle pins rusted. They slaughtered my heritage, laughing about their bargain. Driving home anger smeared the landscape. The ranch house stood outlined against the sun's setting, the porch swing squeaking like a war cry. I sat astride my truck's tailgate, the letter balled up in my fist, swearing to take back every foot. This was war. And Patricia did not know what she'd crossed before dawn. I'd phoned my family lawyer, Amos Reed, a grizzled career veteran who loved dirty battles. Sounds like they stepped in it. He raised in his office. We went through dusty deeds, BHO's annexation, a sham forged signatures, fake notices, and cryptic newsletters and surveys referencing past trails. Then Amos's partner, Leah, discovered a gem, a 1912 covenant my great-grandfather filed prohibiting land subdivision without family authorization. A reversionary clause provided any unauthorized divide reverted ownership back to us. Most of the houses in Crestwood were sitting on illegally subdivided land, their deeds voidable. I could own their entire neighborhood, Amos smirked. There's squatters on your ranch. Leah pointed out map. 80% of Crestwood's homes were mine by law. Patricia's mansion, Greg's garage, the HOA clubhouse, all on shaky ground. I saw Patricia's self-righteous face crumble. Amos advised, they'll get nasty lawsuits, sob tall tales, perhaps worse. You ready? I encountered his homosexuals, born ready. We navigated like coyotes, silent and deadly. Amos placed notices to block titles, while Leah outlined each parcel's defects. I wore the broken rancher, smiling at town functions. While desiring to strangle Patricia, she believed I beat a dumb cowboy out of his depth. Meanwhile, I established shell companies: Horizon Holdings, Sagebrush Ventures, Redstone Properties. Utilizing Amos's contacts as straw buyers, no one connected them to me. More than a year, we purchased 4 closed Crestwood homes, beginning with a dilapidated address fined into devastated by Patricia's fees. Sagebrush Ventures jumped at it, cash no questions. Patricia talked up new investors at HOA meetings, oblivious that I was drinking coffee 2 feet away, plotting her defeat. We kept acquiring defaults, relocations, downsizes. My firms owned the properties, fading into rental to HOA haters, or keeping homes vacant but immaculate by 18 months. We had a third of Crestwood, alleging shifting voting control. Patricia, intoxicated by control, fined lemonade stands and prohibited gaudy decorations, blind to my consolidation. Tightening, I learned about their bylaws, their shaky finances, their over-borrowed reserves. 2 years in my companies controlled 64% of Crestwood, as supermajority to restructure rules or dissolve the HOA. Patricia plotted a park on my covenant-protected property. Digging her own grave, I celebrated on my peak ridge, watching the sun go down, knowing the land would last longer than she. The day I hit, storm clouds hung low, the air charged with electricity. I strode into Crestwood's community center, boots echoing a leather folder weighed down with history. Patricia sat at the head of the boardroom table, a vulture in diamonds. "You can't just burst in," she barked, but her voice wavered as I dropped my papers with a thud. "As per your bylaws," I uttered, turning to the special meeting article. "A member with more than 50% of the vote is able to call a meeting." That's me. I glided over signatures from my LLC chairman. New neighbors, her facepad for an hour. I took down their empire. I delivered the 1912 covenant, showing Crestwood's land was never legally divided. Surveys and title records revealed their fraud. Forged signatures, forged notices, and her brother-in-law's rubber stamp signatures confirmed their culpability. I named each board member, suing them personally for conspiracy to commit fraud and theft. Patricia's bluster threats of countersuits shattered when I presented evidence of the judge's injunction, stopping HOA activities. Her jaw clicked shut. The room was still rain-tapping on the windows. "The HOA is suspended," I said. "Any move you make is contempt of court." Greg gripped her arm, shutting her up. They knew it was through the court battle, dragged on 6 months, my attorneys drowning them in subpoenas. We revealed skimmed fees, phony contracts and conflicts, aplenty. Patricia's sob stories, media interviews, crowdfunding failed against our evidence. Her brother-in-law's admission of rubber stamping the annexation was the coup de grace. The judge's 23-page decision decimated the HOA, voiding their liens, fines, and foreclosures, and striking Patricia and the board with millions in personal damages. Their homes, accounts, and egos were taken. Patricia's mansion sold at auction. Greg endured contempt for concealing assets, and the treasurer went to live with her parents. I occupied the clubhouse parks all the way down to their trimmed lawns on eviction day. It was peaceful, but savage notices alerted board members their titles were null. They were my tenants, paying hefty rent. They departed, humiliated, carrying bags of designer trash. Patricia held onto her house, pleading with the press, but the sheriff didn't hesitate. Her pearls, Mercedes, and gym equipment were auctioned to settle damages. I bulldozed the HOA building, replacing it with a dog park called Turner's Run for my great-grandfather neighbors. Real One cheered as children and dogs played months later. Crestwood flourished without the HOA. Homeowners painted bold colors, constructed tree houses, and waved flags. I rebuilt the ranch fences, pastures, wells, enjoying coffee on my porch, observing sunsets, over land that was mined by blood and battle. On the ruling's anniversary, I burned the signs, letters, painting of the old HOA, welcome to freedom. Plains, no HOA allowed on the Sherardwood. I planted it by the road, the sky blazing like victory. The land remembered, and so did I. Patricia thought she'd crushed a rancher she'd awakened to reckoning.